We'll make a start. No. Just FES committee meeting. Are there any apologies? There's only Andy missing, and I don't know whether he's working or not.
No apologies received.
Maybe he'll come later. I don't know. I don't know what shift he's on or anything. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Item 4, the minutes of the last meeting on the 4th of July. Has anyone any comments on the minutes, or would anyone like to move or second them?
Move them, Chairman.
Second it.
Those in favour? Are there any comments? No. Public forum. There's no one expressed an interest in speaking on anything at the item prior to the meeting, other than you've come for the Park School one. What I intend to do is, as soon as we finish this public forum item, I'll take your item if you want, and then you can either stop and watch if you want to be bored, or you can go, whichever suits you. Well, there are no other members of the public here anyway, so we'll move on. So now we'll move to item 9, which is the small grant application for the parent and child group. Do you want to say anything on the item, or would you rather just watch and see how it goes? Or in fact, if any members of the committee had any questions, if they were to ask you a question, perhaps you could answer it. I don't know how you want to do it.
In the next explanations points 4, but it's all right on paper, isn't it? Sometimes
Yeah.
the person speaking.
Well, if you want to quickly explain, you know, what it is and how it works, that's fine.
Won't be able to hear. No, that's fine. So my name's Autumn Jarvis. I'm the school business manager at Park Primary School. We're requesting this funding for the Play Days playgroup that we set up last year. We started it in September. We requested funding last year to get it set up because we'd started it prior to that. I think we requested it in October because we'd started it in September, and the high level of interest meant that we couldn't actually host it in the room that we intended to host it in. We have a separate room to the school, but so we had to move location because it was very popular. So with the moving location became letting fees and things like that for us to consider that we'd not planned on doing when we set the group up. So we asked for your help towards that for the community project. So Play Days is a play group aimed at newborns to school-aged children. There's a variety of parents that come. We have around 20-25 regulars that attend every single week, and we also have a number of families between 10 and 20 that come ad hoc throughout, and that's various ages. There's some newborns and there's some older ones. We did this because we saw a gap in after COVID. There wasn't as many playgroups around, and we noticed children coming to school with parents felt like they were alone after COVID, didn't have as many friendship groups, didn't have as much support. And then it also affected the children because of that lack of socialisation. It affected their education when they came to school. So we spotted that, we saw a need. And I myself was a COVID mum I have a 2-year-old, and I saw the impact personally as well of that. So we saw that as a school and decided to set it up just on our own premises to see how it went. It went really well. It's still really positive, and we have the same mums coming all the time for the most part. And then obviously we do have the additional ones that drop in and out based on what they've got planned. It works. There are more groups this year, so that's why we've requested. I think there are more groups in the area that have come up over the year because other areas have seen the need as well. But we do think that our group runs quite well, and we've got a lot of parents that have been really, really positive about our group and see it as a lifeline, because ours is free, completely free. We have an EYFS TA, so that's early years foundation stage, that runs it, and she brings her knowledge. She's a level 3. She brings her knowledge and feeds that down into the activities, and it's helping those children with things like finger grip, more fine motor skills, and helping them develop. And the parents are really struggling. We have a few that come and they don't have much money with the cost of living crisis, and it works as a support network, so all the parents help each other out. But as well as a school, we get lots of donations, and if we see a mum in need and we've had donations of something in school, it feeds through and it works well together, of that being that combination, and the EYFS TA working to support the other mums, and she can help with things like that. So we've reduced it slightly this year to 2,000 rather than 2,500, because we're not setting up in a new premises anymore. So we're not going to need as much of the basic items like cups and paper, and not paper plates, plastic plates and things like that. So we wanted to reflect that, but we are still going to see the letting fees. They will still remain, and it is used by all of the community. It's not just benefiting our school, it's a community project. There's newborn straight through to school age, and not all of them that we've seen this September, they don't all come to our school, they come to other schools in the local community when they reach school age. And it's just something to help the community in general that we'd like to keep going, because we have paid up front for this term, regardless of whether we're going to get this funding or not, because the parents have asked us to, and they've said they really enjoy it and they didn't want to see it go. And we get lots of positive feedback from the parents themselves in the playgroup and on Facebook as well, when there's parents, newborn parents and toddler group parents asking for recommendations. We get our name mentioned quite a lot, and they don't just name it as Park Primary Play Days group, it's known as the playgroup on Byron Road, the Play Days playgroup. It's not, as much as we've set it up and we carry that branding in terms of it's, we're the ones that started it, but with it being a separate community building, it is seen more as a community project, and we do like that aspect of it. We don't want to turn anybody away, and never would, but we can't host it in our premises anymore, so it does come with letting fees that we would like some assistance on. Sorry, I don't know whether I went a bit too overboard then, but gives you a bit of a summary.
Howard?
No, you didn't go overboard at all. Sorry, I'm trying to get my head around. Schools used to have secretaries. I'm old enough to remember when they didn't have secretaries. I think it's a very good, I 95% made my mind up on reading through the submission. And I think it is a good thing that you, if I could ask a question, I ought to know things like grade 3 and something, what it actually means. I'm not a teacher, but my youngest son is, and his wife's a primary teacher, so I get EYF. Whoa. Yes.
So the that's from the early years foundation stage, runs up until first year in reception, the end of that first year, and it's all children. So my son's 2, this is in the early years foundation stage. It's sort of a continuation, it's a continuous provision per se for all children up to that stage, because they're not ready for schooling yet. It's to help them through their progression. So things like they won't be able to write unless they've developed their finger and finger skills, so it's setting up activities. So with the level 3 teaching system, that's someone who's been in EYFS for many years and she's got the experience. The level 3 means she's more experienced in that area to offer her advice and pass on those activities. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I also should have mentioned I've got 7-year-old twin grandchildren, so and he's got all this coming shortly. No, I think it's very good, and I'm quite happy to move that we give the money. I just I find it odd that I assume it's the people that are now in. You are in what was the county council building, is that right?
That is, yes, it's not our building. It's
No.
Action Group.
Yeah. I'm just surprised that one charity can't, you know.
They've got their, they have committee bills.
Yeah.
Because the reason.
No, I know all that. I also know how much money they've been given on various other things, and I wouldn't thought £1,000 would have hurt them one way or another. But anyway, I'm despite that.
Charge 1,500, and that was where the actual leasing fees, because they were saying that was purely for the energy throughout the year, the energy and the utilities and things like that, the water. And that's how much, that's where that figures come from. So we have the same thing in the invoice, we want to do the same thing again this year, so that's where we thought that we'd be able to.
Yeah. No. It's just disappointment that they couldn't find a way to either subsidise it a bit or whatever. But as I say, I move that we grant the money, or is it a recommendation to full council?
Well, technically, it's a recommendation to full council, but I can't see that it's going to support whatever we move. It just won't happen. Is anyone wanting to second it? Right?
No,
Well,
sir.
I just ask. So is it an estimated cost? It's really £9,000.
Yeah, so that works off the TA fees as well, so for the hours for TAs, sometimes you need to do things depending on the activities that are going on at the age group. So if the parents are doing a forest school session, we sometimes use the forest school teachers, so it costs quite a bit more. To go actually her hours, then we put her in a separate way. We'll take her down to the forest school session. So that was an estimation based on the so a teacher's hourly rate is a lot more than a TA3, but with TA3 throughout the year, then we use our site supervisors sometimes to go down and help set up, and it's all those different additions that we do that just for the fact that we wanted to run well, we don't want it to be a core community group where you go, because then it just it's not very successful, then is it? And so the parents aren't attending, it's not a really good group. So we do all those little things. So it's the cost of it will include all the activities as well. So we provide a lot of the materials for that. With EYFS, it's with early years children. The activities, it's not just a piece of paper and a pen. There's multiple things like ball, slide, sand, lots of messy activities that once you've done them, you have to really, there's no story that you have to really start again, so it's the repetitive, and that comes with the nature of an early years playgroup that you've got to, for it to do the things that we want, and it's really good, it's we have to make sure we'll look to around like 4 months ago. So that's how we get to that figure. So a lot of calculated the answers for. Thanks.
Second, I thought it was quite small, that people notice about our own
Yeah, it is a community group, that's the way we want to keep it, and that's why we're asking for your help, because if we keep that on sport, the reason we're asking for funding is because we can't host that but we know how successful it's been, and we know how it should. It's for the community, and it is aimed at community, and I'm so happy that it is being a more of a community project. It's not purely private, it's really want to support, want to do all of it because
Yeah. Are there any more comments or questions? No. All those in favour? That's unanimous then.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for the questions as well.
So technically, it will go to the full council meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But like I've said, there is very little chance that anything will change.
Thank you very much. Dawn.
Thank you.
Press it.
I think that leaves just over 1,000 left in grants budget now, doesn't it? For anybody, if anybody's wondering, I think there's about, for the rest of the year, there's about 1,000 left.
12,
isn't
yeah,
there?
12.
But it's better to have been used than not been used when it gets to end of the year. Can we now go back to item 6, the financial update? Does anyone any questions on this, or ask Steve any comments?
I have a few observations. There's 2 or 3 one-off costs from last month, but we discussed them at last month's meeting as well. The plastic planters at the bottom of Alkin Courts have now been ordered, replacing the Boeing ones from memory. They were ordered nearly a month ago now, so I guess that will be happening before too long. So that's a committed cost within the figures, about 9.9 thousand, I think it was. We'll discuss this more in point 7, but we've also ordered the allotment module software, roughly 1,100 quid. We'll come back to that on the next point. And we've also fully ordered, fitted and paid for the anti-tamper garage door, etc., etc. But again, we'll cover that more on maintenance, what we've done. And the only other observation I've really, it's stated the obvious, but July, I think, is the only month with 2 events in it. Fun Day and the Town Grand Prix. So there's more costs in there, but Nathan's done purchase orders for probably 90% of everything. So there's no surprises in there, but just one point of note is the mobile bar at the Fun Day actually took £1,100, which is good income for the council on that one day. And other than that, it's a normal run-of-the-mill month, if you would.
I would.
Just on the CCTV, any news on, I've forgotten the name, Securitas? I know they've come back and the fob thingamy's working. I just wondered if they'd now sourced the whatever bit it was they were waiting for from wherever it was, that this super CIA approved whatever piece of kit that makes it talk.
So I've spoke with the project manager at Securitas today because the transmitters that were coming from Israel have now been delivered. So they're actually in the corridor downstairs. So I've had a chat with the project manager because there's the CCTV upgrade works. It's for obviously the CCTV network in Colne, but there's also the internal town hall CCTV system as well. So they've advised that the upgrade work should be starting within 2 weeks, and the town hall work that should be completed in time for the Blues Festival. Just obviously with us being a venue over that weekend, it's handy having CCTV indoors. But everything's arrived and they're just looking at install dates now. But they've said it'll be within the next 2 weeks.
Just on that, I'm also aware that, as you've said, Nathan, most of the stuff's downstairs now on corridor, and it's some of it's coming dribs and drabs, but I think most of it is there now. But I believe there is still a problem with 1 or 2 of the cameras with the power supply to them.
So I've emailed Kevin at Lancashire County Council to have a look because we've got 2 columns where there's 20 volts of power and there's meant to be 240. So he is aware and he's looking at coming to site to sort it. So I'll be getting in touch with him tomorrow to get a date where he can come to site, because obviously we want it done before the install happens, so then there's no issues when it comes to install. But yeah, we're on with getting those 2 columns sorted.
Okay. Right.
So how they set the big pulling plants out of the train station. She actually Why?
So that incident were down at the railway station, and where the camera is at the railway station, you can't actually see anything because of that big screen that's been put at the bottom of the hill. So it was mentioned to Securitas about raising the camera so we could see the railway station car park, but then I was informed at the end of last week that screen's actually been taken down shortly because they no longer have the contract between the operators and Pendle Leisure Trust. But that's the reason we had no footage, because of that.
Yeah, that's been a problem a while. The camera was a good camera down there, and in their wisdom, when Leisure Trust had that screen put there, we said that it would likely block the view of the camera down into Railway Yard, and it does. Whereas before, it used to cover, well, it covered virtually all cars that were parked there as well, didn't it? In Station Yard, and now it doesn't because they've put that screen in there. So there's not a lot we can do about it, but if it's going, that's good news. Is there anything else on any at finance? No. I think everything is more or less okay and what you would expect for 4 months into the year, bearing in mind that a lot of things, most of the spend is on the midsummer months anyway. So we're a third of the financial year gone, but some budgets are over a third, but you expect it when it's stuff related to summer and things like that. So can you someone move up with note the finance?
That's sorry, I was going to mention.
Yeah.
So trying to move up.
Yeah. Is it seconded? Yeah. Okay. Those in favour? Thank you. That's nearly all papers gone now, isn't it? Realtus software for the allotment.
I think everybody knows that we discussed this prior to the meeting, but the way the allotments have been run over the last few years has been very labour intensive, time consuming. It's all been mail mergers, access databases, and basically there's an allotment module which hooks onto the accounts package that does it all for you. Now, I believe this was looked at back in 2016 before certainly before our time, and the allotment officer at the time didn't want to use it. But I think that software has moved on quite a lot in the last 7 years. So basically, once it's set up, myself, Leah, who's the contracts officer, and Gina did a half-an-hour demo on this, and we were very impressed with it. Once it's set up, it should save a lot of time because basically you're doing everything at the push of a button. Now, on top of that, there's an allotment app that you can load onto people's phones, where you can go down, do a site inspection, write the inspection letter there, and whilst you're looking at things to report, you can take pictures of it, and when you get back in the office, you can upload it to the software and it puts it into the right slots on the system. So basically, we've ordered the system because it's in the accounts, like I mentioned, and on a week today, we've got training with a view to going live that same day. So once that's all set up and running, that should allow the contracts officer to concentrate more on other things, like the GM contracts or whatever we needed to look at. So that's the thinking behind it. And I think for the money, that will save that quite soon, I'd have thought, in time and effort.
Right.
It'd be sort of online training.
Online training, yeah. How many people have been trained up?
What we need to discuss with Nathan and Gina. So,
Is a set cost for one, for four? Does it matter?
that point I'll look into, because
Yeah.
Gina's got the costings of it. We've
Yeah.
done a purchase order. The software's based on a 10-user license and the app's based on 5. Whether you can get less than that, because I wouldn't have thought we'd need a 5-user app license or a 10-user software license. But if that's the bare minimum, that's exactly what it is. But I'll clarify that point.
If it's a 5-user license, they might say, okay, we can train 5 up, so much. But if they say, well, it's £100 per person, and there's maybe 5, maybe we just get 1 trained up and then we train between ourselves.
I think the training will be the fixed cost, but can we get, say, a 5-user license and a 3-user license instead and save some money? That's the point I'll clarify. So, obviously, don't know because Gina's costed it.
That'd be a fixed cost for 1, for 5, for 10, for training.
It's the training's currently just, well, whether Nathan wants to be involved, it's up to Nathan, but currently it's be the 3 of us and maybe Nathan as well.
I was just suggesting that, you know, if it's £100 fixed cost or £200 fixed cost or whatever, how many will they allow us to train? They might say, well, it's only for 2. Or they might say, well, 5 of you can come for your £200 on the online training. That's what I'm saying. If they say, well, we can only train 2 up for £200, we can choose 2 and then we could train the other users within the department ourselves later, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll clarify that.
I thought it was for as many as you wanted up to the limit of the license. That's what I thought it was.
It would make sense, would that, you know?
That's what I thought it was. Because there's no point having a license for 10 users if they're not going to show 10 users how to use it. And that's how I understood it was. But I sort of discussed it quite a while with Gina, but it were in between trying to do other jobs as well and partly off phone. But that was the impression I got.
I think that would be, you know, if it's 10 users, but it'd be 10 users probably with 1 session. You wouldn't be able to do 5 users one time and 5 users another time.
No. But there's nothing to stop one of them showing someone else how to use it, is there? But that was the impression that I had, that the minimum number was 10 users. But as Steve said, we have ordered it and it's coming, you know, it's coming next Tuesday, because she's on a 3rd week, isn't she, Leah? This week. She's on a 3rd week this week. And now we've got the new officer in place. To have a clapped out database system for allotments, hung over his heads for weeks and weeks and weeks, we thought it went not very productive, and we thought, well, now she's here, we're going to have to get something sorted out. So me and Gina ordered it because we had to do something. We couldn't carry on with what we were using. It was a total waste of space. And hopefully, like Steve said, it'll more or less pay for itself in time. We'll say we're not getting bogged down with all clutter. Well, it will also generate all bills annually when bills are sent out for allotments. It generates all that itself, and it'll generate. A couple of meetings ago, we did discuss the idea of having an allotment rent increase in 2024. It'll generate all them and just mail merge them, and then all they need is put in envelopes then, and it'll email them to people who we've got an email address for. So I think it will, in a sense, pay for itself.
I think it'll streamline that whole process personally. So.
Yeah. I'm saying if we put allotment prices up, say by 5% across the board, you just put it in and it'll do every allotment, will it?
Yeah, and it'll work out how much all new allotment prices are, and it'll also generate the letters so you can send them to allotment holder as well. So can we note that has been ordered and is coming next week? Item 8, review of the Town Council financial regulations. Normally, we don't renew them only once a year, which is normally just before full council at annual council in May. But we did suggest that we made 1 or 2 alterations to it regarding signatures for various accounts that we have in various places, and the removal of some of the expired signatories and replacement with another one. And
Yeah, apart from trying to be clever and cut down on printing paper, which took longer than if I'd have just probably written it out with a quill pen, the suggestions are actually very sensible and cover what we talked about.
yeah, I think
Last month.
the alterations are just the yellow bits.
Yeah, it's just, it just names the people for the first part, and the other bit, it said, shall identify councillors, rather, just making the English a little bit better. To move with
The thing that is a bit of a pain with it, myself, the Friday before Gina finished for her holidays, myself and Gina went down the day before on the Thursday to where one of the accounts is, because we need to take one signature off there for definite and put a new one on. And the problem is with the types of account that they have, if you want to change a signature and remove one and add another one, the only way to do it is to close the account and open another one, which is a bit of a pain in a sense. Fortunately, the account we've got, it's very good interest, and it's also one that you don't have to give notice, whereby if you don't give notice, you lose your interest or anything like that. So fortunately, it's not going to incur any losses in interest paid, but it could do if you had a different, you know, if you had a time limited one and you needed to change a signature, you would end up losing 6 months or even a year, depending on the contract with them, losing interest. So it's something we do need to be careful of when we're changing them, because obviously if you have one and it there's no withdrawals for 6 months, and then you need to change the signature and you have to close the account, you're going to lose 6 months interest, aren't you? So it is something we will have to watch. But other than that, like Howard says, I don't think there's anything wrong with what's in here for the wording now. I think it's appropriate. Yeah. So can someone move that we, because that'll have to go to full council, that we send it to full council? Those in favour? Thank you. Town hall maintenance. Now this could be a long one.
So following on from the incident with the garage last month, we have had the new garage door fitted, and we've also had the big steel metal gates fitted as well, with the anti-tamper fixings and locks and all that sort of stuff. So that's all been done. We have discovered that one of the rooms in the town hall seems to be leaking again. So we are on with getting the contractors out to source why it's leaking, which we're just waiting for them to come out. They're unfortunately very busy, to the point they almost didn't want to even want to come and have a look. But we have managed to get them to agree to come and have a look. So we are just waiting for them to come out. As I've already mentioned, Town Hall CCTV should be in by August Bank Holiday, just in time for the Blues Festival. And the access control has now been fixed as well. So the system's back up and running. We've got access to add and remove fobs as and when we need. I think that's it. I can remember anyway. Oh, the window in the committee room that was ordered months ago. That's now been fitted. So that's been fitted, and they're coming back on Wednesday because they had to let the sealant dry. They're coming back to put the edgings around to tidy it all up. But that has now been fitted and it looks as good as new. I think that's about it.
I think the one we're going to have to watch is the raining in again, isn't it? Because I would guess that they'll tell us when they've had a proper look at it, no doubt. But my guess is it's coming from gutters again. Because it's in the same corner, isn't it?
It seems like it's starting in that corner and it's now moving along the wall. So, So from having a look at it, it's looking at it's either the lead work or the guttering. Because if you go into the loft space, you can actually see from inside that the wall is extremely damp. So I think it's either going to be the lead work or the gutters. But our lensmen are, as long as it's not windy tomorrow, going up on the roof to clear what gutters we can. Obviously, where the leak is, there's no actual man-safe system in. So when the man-safe system came out a couple of weeks ago to service all the rest of them, we had them do a survey at that side of the building to look at putting a man-safe system in, because an issue that we've got is we can't clear the gutters at the front of the building. So he had a look, and following on from his survey, they've identified they can install a man-safe system, but it's a different type of man-safe system to what we've currently got in. Currently, it's a wire that you can go around the roof with, whereas this one, it's anchored into the clock tower, and you hook on an abseil down, which the cost to do it's a lot, and then the training to go on the abseiling course is a lot as well. So they don't recommend doing it, but it can be done. It's just very costly to do so. But obviously, we have got an issue, the front of the building not being able to clear the gutters.
But presumably, could it be a big cherry picker though, wouldn't it? Or
We have done it with a cherry picker before, because it's myself and Stephen, the lensman, who's IPAF trained. So we have had a cherry picker out front before, and I've got up to the gutters. The only thing with using a cherry picker is you have to put a pavement permit in, and then obviously if a wagon goes past, it does knock you side to side. But the company that put the man-safe system in and service it, they said that's probably our best bet until something new comes out.
Yeah, it's just that one gutter we can't get at, isn't it? We can get to the other sides.
It's the from the building.
Yeah. And even if you go out in middle at roof and you go up the slates on internal side and then go up to ridge and look over the top, you can't see down into gutter, can you? No. If you could see, it wouldn't be so bad. You can't even see if it's blocked without physically going down slates at the other side. And it's sort of, well, it's one slip, isn't it? And you're in Albert Road, aren't you? And
Well,
it's end of, isn't it?
the cat ladder's not very good. I mean, we've had roofers look before and said we're not even going to look at going down.
No.
We are waiting for our videographer to bring his drone over so we can take plenty of photos of the roof, so we can see if we've got any issues. We can check these gutters without actually going over. So he's meant to be coming one day this week with his drone to get us quite a lot of photos of the roof.
What, for not raining? Well, yeah, Thursday would be a good day for not raining. So it wouldn't be as hard on anyone who was up there having a look at it. But if it is coming over gutters, you'll see a lot better where it's coming over if it were raining, wouldn't you? Depends how you look at it. It's just a pity that that slope at front doesn't have a window on it either, does it, in slates? There's no roof lighting. So you can't even open it and have a look down slates into gutter to see if it's full of water. You can't get at it. And trouble is, well, you will know what it's like. Gutters on inside at wall. It's not like a house, like at home, where your gutters on outside at wall. So if it comes over, it drops on your path, doesn't it, or on garden or whatever. But on that, it drops on inside. It's on inside at wall. It's gutter, which I suppose when they built building, they sort of, it looks a lot nicer, doesn't it, with wall going all the way up and adding gutters. And then you've all this problem with it. I think we're going to have to, you know, if it is because gutters are coming over, because they're long and flat and a lot of them, the only way to stop them coming over is to clean them more regular and clean them before they get blocked, and then it won't come over. The only trouble is you don't want to be going up there when you haven't got some sort of safe equipment to do it with. So it's going to have something spent on it one way or another. I can't see any other way around it. Because what we discussed this morning, weren't it? I said this morning, now it's come in, it might want plastering again. Depends how bad it is. It'll certainly looking like it won't decorating again. You've only to do that 2 or 3 more times, and it'd probably pay for putting man safe up anyway.
So the company that puts them in, they give us an estimate for the man safe on the clock tower. So you're talking in the region of 15,000 to install it, because they have to remove certain bricks and actually anchor it in, and then the training for the abseiling is 3,500 per person as well, which is why they recommend not following that option.
Well, how much is a license every time we need to put a cherry picker up at front?
Pavement permits £45, cherry pickers about 350 a time, and that covers us for a week. But obviously we have to do it when it's not windy and we've got the right weather.
So basically, for the time being, that's the way to go, isn't it? It's a no-brainer. It needs to get up there and see if it can be cleaned out. But as you say, then you're reliant on wind, aren't you? But most times of year, unless it were like in March when it's really windy, or in November sometimes when it's really windy, you're likely to get at least one day where it's not windy out of a week, aren't you? When you rent it for a week, you're likely to get one day where you can get up and get it done.
That's the south of it.
Yeah. So I don't think there is anything else on buildings, is there? Are we any nearer yet sorting out what we are going to do with the shop next door?
We've had 3 contractors look at it, and obviously the quote that FES saw last month, that was using PVC windows and all that sort of stuff. So we've gone back to the contractors and said windows have to be wooden. So we're just waiting for the final quote from the contractor that had a look on Friday. But they've all pretty much give the same recommendations and suggestions on what to do. To obviously get it in a condition where it can be rented out. So we are just waiting for that final quote, which they came out on Friday just gone.
Yeah, because while it's empty, we're also losing income because we're not getting any rent from it, obviously, because it's empty. So to my way of thinking, once we've got the quotes and we decide which one we're going to go with, the sooner we bite the bullet and get it done, the sooner we'll start getting some of the money back by drawing some rent in. So I think it's a case of once we've got the quotes and we get to a position where we can book one of them to do it, we need to get it done. Otherwise, if we leave it while Christmas, we've gone 6 months and no income from it, haven't we? On top of having costs of doing work anyway. So I think we need to bite the bullet when we get the costings in. Hopefully they'll be here for next FES meeting, hopefully.
Maybe we qualify for shopfront grant or something like that. Worth making inquiries.
Could do for shop front, yeah.
The bid have given things away, and with members of that and Pendle do a scheme as well.
It's worth looking at. I don't think there'll be any grants for the work when he's doing it back, but if we can get a grant for front, it'll be helpful, won't it? So moving on then, if there's nothing else on Town Hall, items for a future month's agenda. I don't know whether there is or not. Not at the next meeting, with it being early September, but by the October one, we should be able to piece together some of the figures as to how the Blues Festival's gone. And we will also then have to start thinking about what we're wanting to do with various budgets as it comes up to budget time at Christmas anyway. But I don't think we'll have any figures really for first week in September for Blues, but we certainly should have an idea as to how it stands by October 1, shouldn't we? I don't think there's anything else that needs to go on. Because most of it's regular stuff that repeats on here, isn't it? The date and the time of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 5th of September. So can I thank you all for attending?